Today we're going to do my eyeshadow palette ranking. So all of the palettes that I tried in the year of 2022, we're going to rank them today. Some of these are older palettes that came out in previous years, but I only tried them this year for the first time, and a lot of them are new releases from this year. So we're going to rank all of them. It's going to be a really, really long video, so I highly suggest settling on in, getting cozy, getting a snack, a drink, whatever you need. Get comfortable because it is going to be a long video. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and do the YouTubey things. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's get started. We are going to rank all of these. Now last year, this is the second year I've done this video. Last year I had 25 palettes that I brought into my collection for the entire year. I ranked 25 eyeshadow palettes. Do you want to know how many I've got this year? Take a guess. Take a guess. Before I tell you, guess. 54. Yeah. 54 eyeshadow palettes. And do you want to know what is even worse about that? Is I currently have 15 eyeshadow palettes sitting in my collection that I haven't even tried yet. So I can't even put them in this ranking because I haven't actually tried them. 15. I've never had makeup in my collection before that's been sitting there that I haven't tried. Not all of it is like stuff that I've bought. A lot of it's PR, but still, what the hell? That's like so crazy to me. Anyway, so really the number I guess is, what is that? 69 or 70. Plus there's like a heap of singles that I've brought into my collection. That there are some single eyeshadow palettes in here that I'm going to talk about, but like there's been specific just random singles that I've brought into my collection that I'm not even including. So that's a lot of eyeshadow in 1 year. Like I've more than doubled, nearly tripled the amount of palettes from last year. Granted, my channel is bigger, I'm earning more money, all that kind of thing, but you know. Anyway, couple of little disclaimers. I am going to leave a timestamp as well for when the actual ranking starts because I know some people get cranky about long intros, but little disclaimers. One, you don't need all this like eyeshadow palettes. You really don't. Please don't take this as like bragging or me being like you need all these palettes or whatever it is. You don't. This is just supposed to be a bit of makeup fun. Two, I actually really like all of these eyeshadow palettes. There's probably one in here that I kind of don't like, but even then it's not an intense hatred or anything. So even though I'm ranking palettes that might be lower in like the ranking, I actually really like all of these. And if I don't, I'll specifically tell you, but like I said, I'm pretty sure there's only like one, maybe two that I'm a bit iffy about, but even then I don't think they're absolutely the worst things I've ever tried in the world. So this is very much preference based in terms of like color stories and all that kind of stuff. It's also very preference based on how I'm feeling today. It took me an hour and a half to rank all of these. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. So yeah, keep that in mind. If I've ranked things in lower and you're upset about it, I'm sorry. We're just all different. It's just a preference thing. I actually think pretty much nearly all of these palettes that I've got in my collection are pretty decent quality, if not exceptional quality. So all right, without further ado, I'm gonna stop procrastinating. I've been procrastinating on this video for weeks. I'm still procrastinating about it as I film it. Anyway, let's just go ahead and get started on this ranking. I'm gonna be talking quickly because this video is gonna be so long and I'm not gonna go too in depth. Nearly every single one of these eyeshadow palettes has been featured on my channel in some way, shape or form. So just check through the channel, Google my name and the eyeshadow palette name, and you will find a video on my channel about that palette. All right, number 54. I wonder if any of you guessed this. I wonder if any of you guessed my last and my first. Okay, number 54. It has got to be, for me, this was an easy one actually. As soon as I thought of my first and my last, actually my first was pretty hard, but my last, as soon as I thought of my last eyeshadow palette in this ranking, this was 100% it. This is the Veaway 90s palette. I just didn't vibe with this. I know a lot of people did, and that's awesome if you were someone that did, but for me, I just found this really quite a bit difficult for me to work with. Whether or not that's an experience level, who knows? I didn't personally like the metallics. It just wasn't a formula that impressed me. And yeah, I feel like this is the one where I'm a bit like, I really didn't like it. Like, I will probably either try and sell this because I've literally used it twice and that's it, or I'll give it away after this video because I'm never going to use it again. I really wasn't impressed. I don't recommend it personally. Again, I just want to keep stressing this is a very personal preference thing. Please don't get angry at me, okay? Okay, number 53. This one is actually, I think, maybe the only eyeshadow palette in this whole ranking that you haven't actually seen in my channel. You guys wanted to see a video of it, but honestly, I I didn't have it's not the worst palette in the world, it's really not, but I just haven't been inspired to kind of like bring it onto the channel, especially with all the other makeup that I've been bringing into my collection. So number 53 is the Sigma Enchanted eyeshadow palette. I picked this up on sale. I need to be careful because the gold shadow here did fall out. So you'll see it in the B-roll anyway, but I picked this up on sale. I'd always wanted it. I'd always wanted it for the greens in this palette and just the sparkliness. It just is a really, really pretty unique color story in my opinion. And when I saw it on sale, I really wanted to pick it up. I just find the mattes in here, like, it's not a terrible palette. It's very workable, but I just find them to be really, really powdery and muted. So if you're someone that really wants like a soft pigment of color, then you probably will really like this, but it just didn't give me the intensity that I was kind of looking for in this color story. And the metallics weren't as like dimensional and sparkly as I was hoping for as well. Again, it's actually not a horrendous palette. It just, compared to everything else, it ranked really quite low. Number 52, and I feel kind of bad. I feel like I'm picking on this brand, but I have said even in multiple videos that I don't think this product from this brand is their strongest. Again, personal opinion, but this is the Vive Muse eyeshadow palette. So I believe she brought this out this year or towards the very end of last year. This is on my channel as well. I actually really, really like the matte formula in this particular palette. I actually think the mattes are incredibly stunning, but I really dislike this metallic formula and also just the overall color story of this. I do have similar color stories, similar matte formulas in my collection that are a better formula, but I do like this formula, and I know a lot of you actually do really like the Vive eyeshadow formula, but for me it's just not something that like I don't even think I've reached for this eyeshadow palette since that Vive video where I used this, so it definitely has to be ranked lower. Number 51 is also an eyeshadow palette that I actually really, really like the mattes in this palette, but I dislike the metallics, and it's the Melt Cosmetics Gemini 2 palette. And I picked this up. I'd never actually tried the brand before, and I really enjoyed this color story, the mix of the greens and the rose tones, and I got it in a bundle with Gemini 1. And again, in the review, or like I did a get ready with me or review or something of this palette, and I did really like the matte formula, but the metallics are so dense and chunky and just heavy feeling, and they don't really offer really anything special to the equation for me. So that's why this is ranking lower, more so the metallics, but also just I actually don't find myself reaching towards this color story a whole lot. At all. Like I haven't, again, I don't even think I've used this since the video that I used it in, which is not great. Number 50 is a Tom Ford quad. This is the shade Coquette. My friend Patty actually graciously sent this to me, and I actually really do still, again, all of these palettes now, especially from like now on or after the Vive 90s palette, I do really enjoy them. I do think that they're all lovely, and I do think that you would pick pretty much any of them up and enjoy them. I just don't find myself super reaching for this. I think it's a really pretty color story. It's just not something I would gravitate towards on the every single day, and compared to my other Tom Ford quads, the formulas in those other Tom Ford quads that I own are a little bit more special to me, but it is still very pretty. Number 49 may be controversial, I'm not quite sure, but this is the Natasha Denona Pastel Palette. Really quite pretty. It's just that I don't find myself ever thinking to reach into this palette a whole lot. I don't know what I was even, well, I picked it up probably more so to review for the channel. I did think I would use a bit more of these pops of colors on the everyday, but I just don't find myself using it. And also I don't like the pastel formula in here, especially of the mattes. I find it to be really quite difficult to work with. It wasn't the most impressive formula based palette for me from Natasha, and yeah, I just don't even think to reach in here for the metallics either. So yeah. It's not a bad, like, I know that there would be a lot of people that would enjoy this, just for me not really being a color lover. Yeah, definitely down there. Number 48 is one of the newer Tom Ford quads, and it is the Tom Ford Cream Quad in Velours Khaki. I do really enjoy this. I really love the Tom Ford cream formula, but just this specific color story, it's probably just a little bit too grungy for me to lean towards on the every single day. So I'm just not gonna get as much use out of this one as I would other palettes. But I do appreciate that these greens actually do translate quite green on the eye and they don't just like blend out to a black base. Overall, I do think it's a great color story, just not something that I would lean towards quite heavily. Number 47 was a palette that I got on such a good deal. I literally got this for 40 Australian dollars, which I thought was pretty good. And it's the Natasha Denona Love palette. So I know this has been released for quite some time, but I never really had been drawn to this color story a whole lot until I saw it on an incredible sale. I was like, well, I'll get this and pick it up. And I actually really enjoyed the look that I created using this palette, but I just don't really lean towards these heavy, brighter pink, reds, and purples on the every single day. I very rarely think to reach for this palette over the other incredible palettes that I have in my collection. So while it's a really good, for me, formula and it's very cute and pretty, I just don't think to reach for it a whole lot. Number 46 is actually probably the only drugstore palette that I picked up this entire year. No, not the only drugstore product specifically, but definitely the only drugstore eyeshadow palette. And it's the Colourpop That's Taupe palette. Now, this isn't ranking quite so low because of the color story or anything. This is actually a very me color story. And actually the quality is really gorgeous and all of that jazz. I just never notice it in my collection, and it's not for a lack of it being incredibly beautiful, because it really is, and even as I open it now I'm like, this is stunning. I just don't think to reach for a Colourpop palette. I really don't. I really am a luxury person, like a luxury makeup person. I love reaching for them, and because I have so many beautiful expensive palettes, I think to reach for them to like get my money's worth from them more so than like a Colourpop palette. So I probably shouldn't have bought it, because if I'd thought about it I would have known that about myself. And again, it's not that it's a bad palette at all, it really is a great palette. I just don't think to reach for it. Number 45 is another Tom Ford quad, and it's another cream formula. It only got released this year. This is the Tiger Eye cream quad. Again, I love and adore the cream formula from Tom Ford. This one is quite, it's like a metallic, like, or a satin, almost metallic type quad. So even though it's really pretty, I don't think to reach for this one a whole lot because of my hooded eyes. I do prefer the matte cream formula over the metallic. And so yeah, even though it's a beautiful color story, I do reach for it, but at the same time, I think to reach for a lot of others, especially other Tom Ford quads. Number 44 is definitely not a new palette, and I just honestly had never tried this brand's eyeshadow before. I picked it up on a really good sale on Amazon and was like, now's the time. And it is the Urban Decay Honey palette, or Naked Honey palette. I actually really like this. I picked this up, Simply Blair really loves this palette, and I don't know why, I just was like, I really want to try it, and I don't regret picking it up at all. It's really an easy color story to use. I really liked the look that I created. I thought the formula was really lovely. It's a basic palette, right? Like, it doesn't offer an incredibly sparkly, intense metallic formula or anything like that, and the mattes are just a decent quality, but I don't know, it's a really lovely everyday wearable kind of gold palette if that's what you're into. So I don't regret picking it up. I actually do think I will still get regular use out of it. I really do. Number 43, we have a micro but expensive eyeshadow palette. This is the Victoria Beckham little eyeshadow palette in the shade Tweed. I picked this up because I wanted to do a full face of Victoria Beckham beauty, and so I had to try the eyeshadow formula, and granted, it is actually a very lovely eyeshadow formula. I do really enjoy it, and it is a good little palette for travel, I find, but it's just so little and it's all matte, and it just doesn't offer anything like super exciting for me to like think to even reach for it a lot. I do reach for it a little bit, especially more so for this shade to just pop through the crease or something, but it's just a little bit boring in relation to the other eyeshadow palettes in my collection. But it's a good formula. Number 42 is a Pat McGrath Labs palette. Can you believe that Pat is going to be scoring so low in the ranking? Yeah, I can for this one. This is Celestial Nirvana. And while I enjoyed this formula, I don't know why I can't open it for some reason now. Here we go. This is the colorful one. While I enjoyed this palette, I should say, and I thought that it was fun to create some looks with, and I did actually create quite a stunning look in my 3 looks 1 palette, if I do say so myself. I think it's fine. Like, I think it's fine. Would I have picked it up if I wasn't on YouTube? No way. I would have looked at this and just been like, I'm never gonna wear this. The standout shades are this one and this one for me, and without them being in the palette, I probably would have really disliked this because, you know, I'm never gonna wear really these like brighter, bolder shades. I really didn't need them. I understand that there's probably quite a few of you out there that really appreciated the color, and that's awesome. This was for you. But for me, I'm just never gonna get the level of use out of this as I would say Celestial Odyssey. #41 is the original Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette. I do feel the same way about this palette's metallics as I do with Gemini 2, but I really like this color story of these mattes. The mattes are really beautiful quality. Same as the Gemini 2, I just reach for this color story a hell of a lot more. I really like these greens and these mustards. Anytime there's a mustard in a palette, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my jam. So I just like the overall color story of this one. That's why it's ranking a lot higher. I would reach for this over the like palettes that have been ranked lower quite a lot more. Number 40 is the Makeup by Mario Master Metallics palette. I'd been eyeing the Makeup by Mario eyeshadow palettes for a really long time, and when they went on sale one time, I think at Sephora, like 20% off or something, I just bit the bullet and picked them up. I haven't actually shown, I'm lying, I was saying that I'd shown all my palettes on my collection except one. I haven't shown this one yet. I am going to do a full face of Makeup by Mario. I just haven't had the time yet, so keep your eye out for that. But I don't know if you can tell just even from the look of it, I have actually used this palette a lot because I really wanted to test the formula out before I did a review, and I don't mind it. It's not my, there's some shades in here that I think are really beautiful, and then there's other shades in here that I just think are a bit, not necessarily average, but compared to the other shadows in my collection, quite average. So overall, it's gorgeous, and I do like that it kind of just has one of every kind of shade. So it's like, you know, you take this in the matte palette traveling, and you've got every occasion covered. So I do like that, but there's just a couple of formulas in here that I don't super love. Number 39 is the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette. I got this for Christmas or my birthday last year. I think it was Christmas because it went on a really good sale. And I kind of was like hint, nudge to my husband, and he nailed it and picked it up for me. I really like the color story of this. I love the color story of the mattes especially, and they are a really good high quality matte formula. It's just not something I'm going to reach for a hell of a lot because it is quite a colorful palette. Although I do find that these colors are a lot more wearable than the other colors that I've spoken about so far, like in the ranking. And yeah, I don't know, I think this is quite a solid palette. I really enjoy it. Number 38 is another colorful palette, and it is the Kaleidos Escape Pod palette. I really like this. Now this is super colorful, but I really love this specifically for these metallics. I actually find the metallics in this formula very wearable, and they're like just magical fairy dust neon type shades. They're spectacular, truly spectacular. I adore them. I would keep this whole palette over and over again just for these metallic shades. But I also like that this palette does have 3 really neutral shades in it. So if you don't want to use the color, you really can create any, like you can use any one of these metallics with those 3 more neutral shades, and you've got a look. But if you want to add those pops of color too, you've got it. So I just love the quality of this palette. It's really gorgeous. Number 37 is the next Mario eyeshadow palette. So this is the Master Mattes. I wanted this for so long. It's actually a really handy palette to have in a collection, just given that it's got like every color kind of matte shade you could want. And it allured to me so much. And I picked it up on sale. I don't regret picking it up. I do find myself reaching for this palette a bit, especially with more like metallic heavy palettes, or like Pat McGrath Labs Mothership palettes especially. So I find it just really useful to have all of these kinds of matte shades in just one eyeshadow palette. I will say it's not my favorite matte formula, it really isn't, and I would like to pick up the equivalent of this in Viseart because I think their formula is a little bit nicer. But if this is just easier and handier for you to pick up, like especially if you're in Australia or something with Sephora, it's not like horrendous quality or anything. Like I still enjoy using it a lot. And it's just ranking so low as well because it's just a matte palette. Like it's not anything super exciting. Number 36 is the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 1 palette. So I'm not sure if this is going to surprise any of you. And I went to some lengths to get this palette. Some of you might know, but I really did go to some lengths to get this palette, and it's a great quality palette. The mattes in here are just lovely. Honestly, the mattes in here are so beautiful. The metallics, I don't know if you can see, get hard pan, but you know, you can work around that. They're still fine. I just don't find I reach for this palette a whole lot. I think if my preferences change from cool tone leaning to warm tone leaning again, then I would get a lot of use out of this eyeshadow palette. But for right now, it just kind of sits in my collection a little bit unused. I try and remember to bring it out like as regularly as I can remember, but yeah, it's just not something that like I'm gravitating towards right now. It's a very good work palette though, and if you love neutrals, it's great, but it's just, it doesn't excite me, you know? It doesn't get me going. Number 35 is the first Lisa Eldridge palette that I've tried this year, and it's the Muse one. So this is like the pinky rose toned one. Again, super impeccable quality, especially the mattes. It's just not a color story that I personally am going to gravitate towards. The metallics in here didn't wow me enough to want to really overly reach for them. Kind of talked about that in my review of this, where I was like, if you want that real soft, subtle makeup look, then you'll probably really quite like this. And it's funny because in that video, I actually didn't think I looked good in my makeup in that eyeshadow, and so many of you commented about how much you really liked it on me. And even in like my everyday life, I went to lunch with my girlfriends that day and they all commented on how beautiful the eyeshadow looked. But I just don't know why, I just didn't vibe with it as much. It's not that I don't like it, I'll get use out of it, but it's just nothing wowing to me. And the only reason why it does even rank this high is because the matte quality is just out of this world. 34, we have the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. Another one that if I wasn't on YouTube, I wouldn't have bought. I definitely did buy this more so for a review for you guys, and for some reason I have this like wanting to collect her large palettes, even though apart from Rose Quartz, I very rarely use them. I need to let it go. Let it go, Martina. Anyway, this is great quality. I just find a lot of these shades in here repetitive. This really didn't need to be such a large palette. Like I find a lot of these all just turn out the same on the eye, and I'm not gonna really wear this, like these goldy burgundy shades a whole lot. It's just not stuff like a shade that I really gravitate towards. The saving grace for me is these three shades right here and like these more cool tone sidey mattes. But yeah, it's a beautiful palette and it is good quality. I just get bored using it a little bit. '33 is a palette that I was definitely not going to pick up. I didn't think I would really get a lot of use out of it. I didn't think it would be that wowing, and I really was taken aback when I tried this eyeshadow palette. So this is the NARS Stargaze eyeshadow palette. This is their Christmas one, and I really like this. The quality of this palette was lovely. The look that I got with it was really beautiful. The mattes are stunning. I don't know, I just found this to be quite a lovely eyeshadow palette and was pleasantly surprised by it. So yeah, that's why it's ranking a little bit higher. Is the color story my all-time favorite? No, but it pleasantly surprised me how it all came out on the eyes, and I really enjoyed the matte formula in here as well. Number 32, again, a more colourful palette and an Australian indie brand. We have the Nocturnal palette from Glaminatrix Cosmetics. Now, this actually does come in an actual like nocturnal eyeshadow palette packaging normally, but they sold out of the packaging, I think, and so they released the singles a few months ago as a bundle for the palette, and I was like, I don't care about the actual packaging itself. I adore the color story of this eyeshadow palette, but you can actually pick this up now with the actual eyeshadow palette packaging if you wanted to. I really love this. I actually think Glaminatrix eyeshadows are impeccable quality. I love them. The color stories are unique. I actually have a heap of Glaminatrix singles that I'm going to do a swatch party with as well. They are some Pat McGrath Lab special shades. I'm not even kidding. Like, they're amazing. So I love this. I really liked the look that I created. I love and adore the color story of this, and even though it's colorful, they're kind of more my kind of colors. Granted, I probably won't get a hell of a lot of use out of this one, and probably not this one, but the rest of this palette I'll get a lot of use out of. So I really, really enjoy it. Number 31 is another eyeshadow palette that I wasn't going to pick up, but you guys really requested to see this, and so, you know, YOLO, picked it up, and just, you know, you just can't go past that Viseart formula. I really ended up enjoying this palette a lot. This is the Viseart London palette. It's just one of the little itty bitty minis, and it's not a color story. It's really just this purple here specifically that really kind of throws me off. It's just not a color I'll use a hell of a lot. But I tell you, the Viseart formula, damn, it is a formula that I vibe with. Every time I use a Viseart formula, I fall more and more in love with it. And so, yeah, I really like this a lot more than I thought. And it's just such a little, like, wearable palette and so good for travel. So, yeah, I really recommend these little Viseart palettes, or anything Viseart, to be honest. I think it's so underrated as a brand. Top 30. So coming in at number 30 is the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 2 eyeshadow palette. So the rose toned version of Dimensions 1. Again, beautiful quality. The metallics in here are a huge step up from Dimension 1, in my opinion. Has the cream shades, all that jazz. Not a color story that, well, actually it's a color story I'll get a lot of use out of. And you can say it's a similar color story to Muse, which is, I reach this a lot more over Muse. The only reason why it's ranking at about 30 is just these metallics, like these two right here, they just look really similar on the eyes. There's not a lot of difference between them. I don't super love a gold, and I wouldn't wear these a hell of a lot. So even though I really enjoy the metallic formula in here, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more diversity. But the quality is lovely. Number 29, we have another Tom Ford quad. This is another cream quad, and this one is Smoky Quartz. I actually really, really like this palette. This one was a tough one to rank. A few of these were quite tough to rank, and I almost wanted to just take my Tom Ford quads out of the ranking altogether, if I'm honest, because I really value my Tom Ford quads in a different way to other eyeshadow palettes. I don't know why, I just do. I find my Tom Ford quads are really just palettes that I like to reach for when I'm in a rush, on the everyday, need something just chic and put together. I can just use any Tom Ford quad and it just always works immaculately for me. But when you like rank them against others with like more sparkly shadows and like different color stories, they kind of fall differently, but in my mind, they're like a separate part of my collection. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, this one is Smoky Quartz. I love this. I love the cream formula. And it's just that I love a different Tom Ford cream quad a lot more than this one. That's why it's ranking a little bit lower, and I reach for that a lot more. But I love this shade right here as a one and done. It's so good. But I don't reach for these two as much on the cream formula side of things. That's why it's ranking a little bit lower. But the formula of these cream quads is so good. So good. I mean, Tom Ford is a very personal it's a personal thing, Tom Ford. All luxury makeup is a personal thing, I think. And so I'm not telling you whether or not you should spend this money. That's completely up to you. Number 28, this was a hard one for me actually, and I'm going to explain why, but number 28 is actually the new Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. Here's the thing, I actually really like this eyeshadow palette for individual specific shades, and those individual specific shades get ranked a lot higher, but overall as a palette, I don't super love it. And I've talked about this in the review. I know, you know, a lot of people feel the same way as me and a lot of people don't. I get it. It's either for you or it's not, but I just don't like the mattes in here. I really don't, apart from this evergreen one, which is a cream to powder. I don't like them. I think they look the same. Like, these two look the same. I've gone on and on about this. Check out my reviews. So the way that I've come to truly love and appreciate this palette is I created my own Natasha Denona midi palette from my midi collection. I have that video on my channel if you want to see it. And that palette that I created, I fell in love with, and it had quite a few shades from this palette in it, especially the ones that I'm most interested in, like these two right here, this one, it just, those shades to me really speak out to me. And so having those shades in a palette that I curated with other shades that I find really wearable and special to me in the midi collection, I ended up falling just even more in love with those shades specifically. So, and actually I created a look, like a short on my YouTube channel using a couple of these shades from that curated palette. But yeah, so the reason why it's ranking so low is because for me to love and adore this palette, I feel like I need to mix and match it to create my own. And the palette's higher than this one, I don't feel like I need to do that. 27, we have another Tom Ford quad. I bought a lot of Tom Ford quads this year, okay? Don't judge me. Actually, this one was a gift. This is Nude Dip from Tom Ford. It is such a cult classic in the Tom Ford quads. I really like it. These as one and dones all over the lid for like work especially. A lot of the times for work you'll see me wearing this quad or one of the cream quads, but a lot of the times you'll see me wear this all over the lid. Oftentimes I'll also put like one of the cream shadows down as like the matte, and then I'll pop one of these over the top, or like one over the top, this one in the inner corner, and then use this to deepen out the outer corner, and it's really lovely. I think this is a really solid like Tom Ford quad. Number 26. This palette ranked so much higher than I was anticipating. In my mind, before I sat down to like really rank my palettes, this was going to be quite low. But like when I was comparing it to all of the other palettes in my collection, I was like, yeah, but you would wear this, you like over that, or like I could see me wearing it maybe like over those like palettes lower. I feel like I'm losing all words now, I'm sorry. So this one is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette, and when I did the review of this, like I was like, yeah, it's a fine palette, but like you don't need it, and I still stand by that. I do, because this is $135. I'm pretty sure it's sold out now. It's limited edition. It cost me, actually, it might not have cost me $135, but it definitely did with, it was either 135 Australian dollars for the palette and then 155 with shipping, or 135 with shipping. Either which way, it was expensive, especially for Makeup by Mario, especially for this kind of a color story. Like, I don't know. I don't see how this was worth that much money personally. And that's coming from someone, I get it, who spends that same amount of money on a Tom Ford quad. Makeup by Mario isn't Tom Ford in my mind. Do you know what I mean? It's a different experience for me. This palette wasn't bad. I think the look I created was super nice. The reason why this is ranking so high, to be honest with you, is it's just a color story that I'm going to get a lot of use out of. It just really is. It's a color story for me. It's more of a neutral, cool tone leaning palette. These shades are so sparkly and special and stunning, these three right here, and these two right here are also other metallics that I would wear. So while I stand by the fact that I don't actually think that you need this palette, and also that this palette really doesn't cater to a lot of skin tones, which for a makeup artist that has a following of a wide variety of skin tones, especially like given that he's huge from the Kardashians, like that disappoints me. But in terms of like my physical collection and where I would sit it, it sits there. Number 25, we have another Tom Ford quad. I told you I bought a lot this year. This one is one of the new cream quads that just got released. This is Violet Sateen, one that I actually wasn't going to pick up because when I saw the swatches of the two new cream quad shades, the latest two, khaki is a green. You know I love a green. I'm a sucker for it, and so I instantly was going to purchase that, and I was like, you don't need this, it's purple. But my lord, I actually saw this one in store and I swatched it and it sold me. This shade right here and this shade right here, they're so pretty. They're so pretty. They're like kind of really more subtle cream type formulas of like Pat special shades. They don't have the same intensity or sparkle, but like if you wanted that same kind of a vibe but in like a cream shadow and for like the everyday, that's kind of what it reminds me like. And I just find that even though this is purple, it's not like it's a cool tone smoky type purple that really suits my eyes, and like kind of, I don't know, whenever I wear that I just feel like it suits me and is still very wearable and everyday. So yeah, I actually really like this a lot more than I anticipated. Number 24 is a palette that again is ranking probably lower than not that I want it to, but almost that I kind of in my mind have come to like it to. But again, I'll explain the reasoning, and it's the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. So this is a gorgeous palette. All on its own, it's a gorgeous palette. If you don't have any Natasha Denona midis at all, I think this is a really good one to start off with because it's kind of got a mixture of like all her midi palettes in the one, which is actually, I think one of you said on my review video of that, is that she kind of took all her favorite shades from her existing palettes and tweaked them slightly to create like her dream one. So I guess that makes sense, right? So if you don't own any of her midis, or you only own like maybe one, I do recommend this as a starting point. I think it's brilliant for that. For me, I own most of her midis, right? If not nearly all of them. So I kind of felt like this was a bit repetitive in ways, and there's just like these three shades I won't get a lot of use out of. The black I won't really get a lot of use out of. The rest of the tones are pretty, but I've really come to enjoy and appreciate the palette again from that curated palette that I did, where, because a lot of that curated palette that I created is made up of My Dream and Retro Glam shadows with a few of like retro and glam and bronze like sprinkled in Metropolis. And so I really came to appreciate these shadows a lot more from that curated palette, but I feel like I have to create a curated palette to kind of get the use that I want out of them. So that's why it's ranking so much lower, because I feel like because I own so many of her midis, this on its own in this color story gets a bit lost. But when I kind of mix and match, it really stands out to me because I reached for a lot of these shades to create that palette. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in my head it does. Number 23, we have a palette that I wasn't planning on picking up either and definitely surprised me by how much I enjoyed it, and it's the Lisa Eldridge Myth palette. Again, just don't super love this royal purple. It throws me off when it's in a palette, but when I used this and created a look, one, I personally felt like it, if I say so myself, I felt like it looked really stunning, but just the shades in here really impressed me more than I thought they would. This metallic right here is beautiful in the eye. This is so dimensional. If you go into Lisa Eldridge palettes thinking they're going to be like Pat McGrath Lab special shades, you are going to be disappointed. They're not like that. They're a very soft, everyday, wearable formula, but I don't know, there's something special about her formula and her palettes, and this one definitely really took me by surprise considering I wasn't going to pick it up, but I think it's a beautiful palette and I see myself reaching for it a lot. 22 is definitely an older palette, but again, I only tried this year, and it's the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. I'm not super into warm tones at the moment, but when I think of going to do a warm tone look, this is the palette I think of to reach for. I just really do like this palette. I think it's really good quality. You're not gonna get a lot of dimensional looks in this. This is like the perfect palette for someone that like doesn't know how to put colors together, wants a warm tone everyday palette, and wants to know that no matter what shade they put on their eye, it's all gonna work together and look good. I really like it though. I like it for this shade, this one, and this one specifically. I don't know why my eye goes straight to them, and I really feel inspired when I look at them. Shadow quality is great. You just, you know, when you don't want to think about what you put in your eye, it's really good. '21, and then we're in the top 20. So number 21 is the Pat McGrath Labs Bridgerton 2 palette Belle of the Ball. I think I was in a minority, but I really liked the Bridgerton palettes from Pat McGrath Labs. I really like this one, I really do. I think this shade and this shade is really pretty. This is Gigabyte. If you don't own Subversive and you really want it for this one shade, just pick this palette up. I know it's at TK Maxx in the States right now as well. It won't be in Australia, I'm sorry. But if you're in America, you can probably get this quite discounted right now. I love the satin matte formula. I think the thing that was disappointing about this palette is just that it's repetitive shades, right? Or like almost repetitive shades, so close that they're like repetitive. So yeah, but I genuinely enjoy this, and I find myself using it way more than I would have anticipated. Top 20. Is my mouth sore from talking? You betcha. Anyway, number 20, we actually have Bridgerton 1, Diamond of the First Water. I don't know why this palette took me so by surprise, because when I purchased it, I'm a huge Bridgerton fan as well, but I kind of looked at this and I was like, the color story is not something I'll probably get a lot of use out of. But I really love the brand, I really love the show, you know, why not pick it up? But damn, this took me by surprise. One, the quality of this is really, really good. I love this matte formula. The metallic is stunning. This is a special shade, and it's actually a lot more wearable. Even though it looks like bright blue, it is a lot more wearable in the eyes. But this satin matte formula, this was the first time Pat released this satin matte formula, and my God, it's so good. I'm disappointed that every time she seems to release a satin matte formula, it's a pink or a coral. Even in the C3PO palette that she just released, it's a coral. I'm like, just release a neutral in this shade for the love of God, please. But I really do get a lot of use out of this. This metallic is one of my all-time favorite metallic shades. I really like it. Number 19, and I can finally actually start showing this palette a lot more on my channel. This is the Lunar Beauty Advent Calendar palette. I have rearranged the shades of mine, just so you know. I put all the mattes at the top and all the metallics at the bottom. I haven't been showing this on my channel at all because I know that people were like opening up the calendar and I didn't want to ruin the surprise for anybody, just in case. I do have a video unboxing this. It was like probably the most fun I've ever had filming a video. I'm not even kidding. I was like a little child. I really like this. The quality of Manny's shadows, the quality, I say this all the time, Lunar Beauty is so underrated. Whether you love or hate Manny himself, the quality of that brand is impeccable. These mattes are a beautiful formula, and these shades, they're like ColourPop Super Shock shades, but even better, I think. So I really love the color story of this. I think it's really wearable. It's got some greens in here for your girl. I'm happy. I was pleasantly surprised by this. '18 is a palette that I originally missed the boat on, just completely missed the boat. I kicked myself, and then when I went to America, I found it in Nordstrom Rack for like dirt cheap, and I was so stoked, and I've never purchased anything quicker in my life. NARS Climax palette. I love this palette. God, this is such high quality. This is such high quality eyeshadow. I love the color story. It is so stunning. Everything about this palette is magical to me. I don't know why NARS wouldn't make this a permanent piece in their collection, because it is perfection. Truly, I love it. I can't think of a bad word to say about it. I love it. '17, we have another Lunar Beauty palette. This is the Nude Prism Eyeshadow palette. Oh, if you're a neutral lover, go ahead and get this palette. It's so good. It's so good. I don't know how else to tell you. These metallics are like kind of cream-like formula. It's just perfect for the everyday. You can really dress this up. Good bridal palette even. Great for work, any occasion. Again, the packaging's amazing. Like, it's such an underrated brand. I highly recommend checking this out. I really do. 16 is a palette that in the review, I just got so excited by this palette, and so many of you guys have picked this palette up from my videos of it, and I'm so happy because all of you have told me that you absolutely love it. And I can't agree more. It's such a good palette. This is the Oma Beauty Freedom palette. Unfortunately, one of my shadows broke and fell out, and it wasn't repairable, which was actually one of my faves, the bronze one, but that's okay. You win some and you lose some. These shades are like Pat McGrath Lab special shades. Truly, they really, really are, for like a fraction of the cost of a Mothership palette. They're so stunning. Like, look at this shade. Like, the dimension in these are impeccable. The mattes are incredibly good quality. You can get these usually on sale, this palette. I don't know why more people don't talk about Oma Beauty. It's baffling to me because the level of quality this eyeshadow palette has is mind-blowing, and people just don't seem to talk about this brand. I just don't get it, but this is so highly rated by me, and most of you know that because I know a lot of you picked it up. 15, we have Pat McGrath Lab's Nude Allure. This one is so cute. I love these little quints she did. I think they're amazing. But these shadows are just so pretty. Honestly, they're so sparkly and dimensional, and I really love them. Every time I use this palette and create a look with it, I really, really like the way that the look comes out. I don't know, it's just cute. It's just cute. Again, I can't stress enough that these palettes, it's like splitting hairs. All of these are just kind of number one to me, if I'm honest with you. Like, it hurts my soul to be ranking these, but I know you guys enjoy it, so I'm doing it. 14 was a palette that I saw, wanted, talked myself out of, got it because you guys talked me into another one of it, and oh god, I love this palette so much. This is the Viseart San Francisco palette. Instantly when I saw this, the green and the orange together just like drew my eye, and then obviously I knew I would use these neutral mattes, and I knew that I would use this shade and this shade a lot too, and god, I love this. I even took this to my trip to Melbourne with me and just pretty much solely used this palette. I love it. That Viseart formula, you guys, I'm telling you, it is so insanely good. Next year, I would actually like to expand my Viseart collection because I don't have enough eyeshadow, as you can tell, but I just value the Viseart formula. 9 times out of 10 when I travel, whenever I go anywhere, I take my Viseart palettes because they're small, they're compact, and they're just intensely good quality. So yeah, I loved this color story. It's inspiring to me. Number 13 is another Lisa Eldridge palette. We have Cinnabar. I love this one. I mean, I love all of these. How many times can I say it? This one I do really like the matte shades in here. These are kind of those staple matte shades that I like to use on the everyday. I personally would actually switch these up, even though these metallic shades in here are actually really beautiful. They're just not ones that I probably would lean towards every single day, but the mattes are. And Lisa Eldridge matte formula I think is the best matte formula I've ever tried, hands down. I really do. There's something about it, I just adore it. And so the fact that these are like just my staple matte shades, like it's gonna rank high just from that alone, considering how impeccable that formula is. The metallics are stunning too, don't get me wrong, but just that matte formula, it's just, oh. Number 12, we have a Tom Ford quad that is incredibly hard to get. This is the Metal Lust quad. And again, this is so good. If you can find this and you want to try a Tom Ford quad, or if you are a Tom Ford quad lover and you don't mind picking them up and you see this, pick it up. Just pick it up. I know it's ranking at 12, so you're like, yeah, but how much do you really love it? Honestly, you guys, I can't stress it enough, I love all of these. But this is just so good, especially if you love these kinds of tones. Like, if I have to go anywhere and I just need a quick, really put together, but like quite even more of a glam look, this is the palette that I'll go to. The mattes are such a lovely formula. This is their new sparkly formula that they released last year. They released this one and Lava Luster. Such a good formula. Love it, highly rate it. I actually wore this shade on my wedding day. Number 11 is my all-time favorite, Tom Ford quad. It honestly looks so boring. It really does, but my lord, I love this quad so much. This is the Rose Quartz Cream Quad. I love it, and I love it for this shade. I've nearly hit pan on this shade. It's the most boring shade, but it is the most perfect, just neutral shade for my lid. I love it as a one and done. With like bold lips. I love it with this all over the lid, this on the outer corner, and then this on the inner corner, and this all over the lid as well. It just looks impeccable. Anytime I wear this, I just feel so chic and stunning. I really do, and I always get huge compliments on my look. So I think this quad is the best Tom Ford quad personally. I know it looks super boring, but there's something about this color story. It's so good. Now we're up to the top 10. We have done it. If you're still here, what a legend. This one technically is single eyeshadows, but it was sold as a bundle, so I'm counting it as an eyeshadow palette, and it is the Sydney Grace Cosmetics in Mel's Loving Memory bundle. So Mel Thompson is an incredible YouTuber. I know pretty much all of you would know her. She passed away sadly. and this was Mel's version of the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette, and she nailed it. She nailed it. One, I just love this color story, period. I love that there's like the pops of green, but there's also a lot of like muted wearable tones in here. There's a lot more depth in here than the original, well, Natasha's version of the Retro Glam. But the Sydney Grace formula is something truly special. It really is. If you've tried the Tiny Marvels palette as well, you know, like the formula is, it's hard to describe how good this formula is. I actually have a heap of singles sitting on my desk right now that it just came in the mail that I ordered from Black Friday as well, because I was reminded, like, I'd only tried the Tiny Marvels palette, which I still love and adore. Then I picked this up, and in that video, I fell so head over heels in love with this formula that I instantly, it was like Black Friday, I picked up more singles on sale because I just want to have all of the shades of these. That's how good this formula is. I don't know, you guys, it's amazing. Number 9 is another indie brand palette, and it is the Glaminatrix Nearly Natural palette. In my review of this, or in my original like get ready with me where I tried this, I called it the Nearly Neutrals palette the whole bloody time. It's Nearly Natural. This is magical, spectacular. The shades are gorgeous. The color story is impeccable. It's such a, again, it's one of those palettes that if you're just looking for like one eyeshadow palette in your collection, it's going to really cover off on every occasion. Like, it has the golds, the pinks, the bronzes, the greens, even the champagnes, the silver. It's stunning, really impeccable quality. You can actually pop these shades out too if you wanted to like mix and match them, or create like, you know, different single palettes, that kind of a thing. You can like rearrange them, but I think that Glaminatrix is really underrated. It's such a beautiful quality eyeshadow. Top 8. I wonder if you guys know what eyeshadow palettes are coming. So number 8 is Lisa Eldridge Sorcery, and this might surprise some of you because these are shadows that I love and adore. They're shades that I wear all the time, and I don't know why I love the top 8 a little bit, just a little hair more than this one, but for some reason I do, even though as I'm looking at this, as I hold it up, I'm questioning all of my decisions, because I do really love it. I love this shade, Mercurial. Oh my lord, the dimension on this. But Grotto, the green, this little antique gold. The only shade that it's not that I don't like it, I just won't really wear, is this blue. This green matte is stunning. This silver, it's like a silver with the barest hint of like green to it. It's just, oh, it's such a good palette. It really is. It's sold out for a reason. That's all I'm saying. Number 7 is not technically a put together eyeshadow palette that you can just like automatically go and hit add cart to, but you can definitely like go onto the website and purchase this exact palette should you wish. And this is the first Lethal Cosmetics palette that I curated. So I do have a review up on my channel of this palette. Lethal Cosmetics reached out and asked if I would like to create my own eyeshadow palette, and they would just send it to me in PR, no strings attached, didn't have to talk about it, nothing, just would you like to try us? I had already tried the brand years ago, and I didn't super love the eyeshadows. A combination of, and I have touched on this in the review, a combination of my experience at the time, the shades that I chose were definitely not me shades at all, and I do believe that their formula has changed, which the girl that I spoke to in the brand did confirm that obviously their formula's changed because that was years ago. Well, I don't know what they did to their damn formula, but my lord, it's incredible. This blew me away. One, I curated this palette, so it's obviously a color story I love and adore, but like the quality, the mattes, so buttery, so smooth, so blendable. Also, like this shade is like this bright blue, right, to look at, but then you put it on the eyes and it's insanely dimensional and like icy. Like, you have to check out the look I did with this. The shades in here are just really wearable. Obviously, I picked them all out, so for me, these are like really everyday friendly shades as well. And I don't know, I was so impressed. I want to use this palette all the time as well. And yeah, I don't know, I love Lethal. I really do. Number 6 is also a Lethal Cosmetics curated palette. So again, you can't just go and like click add to cart, but you can obviously create this exact palette should you wish. And it's the most recent video, this video of me like putting together this palette and using this palette for the first time was up on my channel just last week. So it's very fresh on the channel. If I thought I loved the Lethal formula with that palette that I just spoke about, these, I don't know what they've done. These are all brand new shades that they just released on Black Friday. I don't know what they've done with their formula. My lord, honestly. These are like cream molten shadows that have so much dimension to them. I can't explain it. Like, go and check out the look and everything. Swatches don't do these justice, but even the swatches are beautiful, but it makes me angry how good these are. It makes me angry. These are a whole other level of quality. They really are. They're a whole other level of quality. I really recommend checking out their new shades in particular. Ooh, ooh. Number 6 is the Pat McGrath Labs Bronze Bliss Quint. And if you had asked me when I first started ranking these if this would have ranked so high, I would have said no. But every time I went to put this somewhere, I was like, no, it's just so stunning. It's just so stunning. And it just kept getting higher and higher in the ranking. And it really is. It's such a gorgeous quint. And every time I've used it, I've just absolutely fallen head over heels in love with the looks that I've used. This silver, Pat did something special with this silver. She really did. There's something about this silver shade in the formula. It's like a cream metallic molten shade. It's beautiful. And these bronze shades, yeah, they're just bronze shades, but I don't know what it is. They're stunning and they have this real dimension to them. Even this black, it's not a straight black, it's a charcoal. I really enjoy it. And the champagne, I think this is a really, really lovely, stunning palette. I really do. I've shocked myself by how much, I don't know, it's Pat, so you obviously think I super, super love it, but it's just, you know, it's such a standard color story, but it's really special. Number 4 is an eyeshadow palette that you guys really strongly recommended I pick up, and when it got kind of relaunched, I was like, oh, I just can't really afford it and I don't know if I can justify this, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I ended up biting the bullet and I'm so glad I did. Natasha Denona Metropolis. You guys have been telling me for ages I need this and I didn't believe you, but you are right. One, it has a lot of cream to powders in here and that's my favorite Natasha Denona formula. I love her cream to powder formulas. But there's just the color story. There's just something for everyone in this palette, and it has a lot of like muted greens, which I super love. It has some pops of color. It has a lot of these brighter orangey pumpkin spice tones, which again, I actually really love those tones. A lot of these gorgeous browns. I don't know, this is just a really good palette to just lean on for any occasion, and it's still like the shades in here are still slightly different enough that it really brings something unique to the table. And again, the shadows that I pulled out of here for that curated Natasha Denona palette that I did made me fall in love with it even further. Like, I really created a really gorgeous look. I think it was with this shade right here. It was really, in my opinion, quite stunning. So yeah, this is a palette that I am really happy and excited to have in my collection for. I would buy it 10 times over. It's really lovely. I'm pretty sure it's still available on her website. We have our top 3. Who knows what's in the top 3? Oh gosh, I can't wait to see you guys' comments from this video, especially if you've watched the whole darn thing. Number 3, such a simple palette, but such a stunning palette, Lisa Eldridge Vega. Oh, to look at, honestly, even to look at, I'm like, oh, it's just nothing special, is it? But oh my god, this is such a good palette. You have to like I don't know why I'm struggling to hold this. You have to like cool tones to like and appreciate this palette, right? If you don't like cool tones, this is nothing special to you. But I am a cool tone lover so intensely, and just this shade is so perfect. This one's perfect. The gray charcoal, the black, and then these 2 metallics. I could honestly, I could just have this in my collection and I'd be fine. I wouldn't feel like I'm missing anything because these are just tones that I reach for every day. I love this. And again, her matte quality is out of this world. Out of this world. I love it. So yeah, I'm super stoked to own that. The top 2 was a tough one because number 2 was what I thought was going to be number 1, but when I opened, I'll tell you when we get to number 1. Anyway, number 2 is controversial, I think, because you either are interested in this or not. You either have it and you super love it, or you don't. It just depends on who you are, but I freaking love it. And it's the Izumaya Industrial palette. I love this little palette. I really do. I love it. I was interested in it from the second I saw it. It's cool. It's cool. I have so much fun using this eyeshadow palette. Every time I use this palette and create a look, I just have the best time. It inspires to me because it doesn't really have any mattes in here. When I like to create a look, I like to try and challenge myself to use it without bringing in a matte palette to use alongside it, and it just really pushes me outside my like creativity zone and like, or my comfort zone even, and I have created some of my all-time favorite looks using this palette. I love all of the shades in here, but I love how softly pigmented this is. If there's a couple of shades in here, like this one right here and this one, where they are intensely pigmented. But if you go into this thinking that the shades are going to be as intensely pigmented as, say, a Pat McGrath Labs Mothership palette, you'll be really disappointed. And for example, like Hannah Louise posted and she reviewed this and she really was not impressed with it and almost hated it. And it's because she was probably looking for more something like a Mothership palette. She even talks about recently how much she just only uses her Motherships because that's how much she loves them, and I get it. But the reason why this works so well for me and the reason why I love it so intensely is because any other time I would use these kinds of colors and feel a bit like an imposter. It wouldn't feel quite like me. I'm not someone that wears a lot of like grungy, edgy tones, but because these are so softly pigmented and like wearable almost, I feel like I can get away with this color story for the first time ever. It's like really not intimidating. And even though like the marketing for this palette and probably even maybe the color story looking at this palette feels intimidating, the actual use of this palette in the everyday is not intimidating in the least, at least not for me. And like the shades blend really, really well, even just through the crease as like matte shades. And then, you know, all of the other shades just apply really, really well. If you are someone that only uses your fingers for eyeshadow though, I don't recommend this. It doesn't love fingers. It does get a bit hard pan if you kind of use your finger too much on this. It's a palette that you need to use with brushes. But if that's for you, like, oh, it's such a good palette. And now we have number one. And I'm assuming you all know exactly what it is by now, so I'm not going to tease you. It is the Pat McGrath Labs Moonlit Seduction palette. Fun fact, it's also what's on my eyes right now. And I was saying when I was before with number two, how I was like, thought number two was going to be number one. But every time I open Moonlit Seduction, I just get my breath taken away. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I really do. This palette to me is perfection. There is actually, I should take that back. There is something I would like differently in this palette, and I would like to take out this shade and put the transition shade from Subliminal right there, and then it is actually perfection to me. But the metallics in here and even these two mattes, it's not that I don't like this, it's just I would get a lot more use out of the Subliminal shade. I don't know, you guys, it's just incredible to me. It's hands down my favorite Mothership palette. If you want to know my ranking, this is number one. This is going to be number one. I love every single shade in here, especially these. Like, this shade is so cool. This one, this is amazing. All of them, they're just amazing. It's such high quality. I know some people were really disappointed that this was a new special shade formula and they didn't like it as much, but for me, I love it. And I think it's more so the shades, to be honest with you. I just really love the shades of everything in here. It's super, super wearable for me. It's just kind of the tones I would gravitate towards on the everyday, all of them. So yeah, I don't know, this is something special to me. I just get, like I said, I get mesmerized by it every single time I open it. And so it just absolutely had to be number one for me. I did it. I survived. 54 palettes ranked. Listen, this was tough. This was tough. Like I said, I enjoy pretty much all of these palettes apart from like maybe the bottom kind of 4 or 3, but even then they're not bad palettes. I still enjoy them. It's just that I like, you know, compared to the others, they're not as incredible, but like this was splitting hairs, honestly. These are some really good, beautiful eyeshadow palettes in my opinion. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Was this kind of like ranked how you thought it would be? I'd be really interested to know what you guys kind of had in mind for my ranking. Hopefully you enjoyed the video in some way, shape or form, just relaxed to it, found it helpful, whatever that should be. Hopefully you liked the format. Now I do have a little surprise, and I saved this till the end and didn't announce it beforehand, because if you have made it till this point, you're a real one and deserve to have this surprise. I actually did pick up a new Moonlit Seduction, Pat McGrath Labs Moonlit Seduction. I haven't even opened this yet, so we're gonna open it together to make sure it's not broken. I probably should have done that a while ago. I'm gonna give this away to you guys. To one of you guys, I guess. I would love to buy every single one of you that are watching till this point a Mothership Moonlit Seduction, but not that rich. But I did buy a new one. Here we go. Not broken. So you can see, brand new, untouched, Mothership 10 Moonlit Seduction. Gosh, it looks different untouched, doesn't it? Oh, it's just so magical. It's so magical. This is going to be given away to one of you. I have no idea at the time of filming this, I'll be honest, what I'm going to do. So check the description box. It's going to be in the description box how to enter. So yeah, if you enter, good luck. I wish I could give it to all of you. I'm sorry, I can't. But yeah, in the description box, all of the rules will be in there. Look at me paying attention. I'm just doing that. Anyway, all of the rules and everything to apply will be in the description box, so make sure you check that out. I'll probably keep the giveaway open for like 5 days, probably 5 days. So at the end of 5 days, I'll announce the winner in a pinned comment, and I will, depending on how I've done it, I'm thinking I'm going to do a Google form or something, so hopefully I can just email the winner, but we'll just see. Anyway, check the description box. But yeah, giveaway. Moonlit Seduction. Someone else, if you don't have it, you need to experience the love of it. So yeah, it's my little thank you to you guys for being such absolute legends, truly. Which, if you're watching to this point, you're a legend and you deserve a pat on the back. And if you haven't already, pretty please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps my channel a lot, and I feel like maybe I deserved it after this one. At least if you enjoyed it. Okay, I hope that you have the most amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Bye.